Hey guys, welcome back. It is Bushcraft with another video. And, with the weather, the way it's been, people losing power. I was without power for almost 24 hours. I think it was 20 hours, something like that. For those who are not prepared, it can be very scary. And the reason why we do these videos is not to scare the crap out of you, but to prepare you so you don't get scared. Simple. So, yeah, as the title says, 10 ways to light your home without electricity. And everybody knows candles and things like this, but there are people who, don't like to smell candles and stuff, or there's other reasons why. And you should always have a backup of a backup of a backup. That way, you always have a backup. And sometimes there are some other types of lighting that you need to have just because it's safer. And the first one here would be a headlamp. You put it on they have some that goes on the brim of your hat, and they have some that you strap onto your head. You look like a weird cyclops looking thing, but hey, they do wonders. When you're sitting there working on something with your hands and you don't have to hold a flashlight, or you don't put a flashlight in your mouth and trying to work on something, it's great. Also, say you have to go outside and dig a hole or relieve yourself. Having it hands-free, so to speak, makes it a lot easier. I remember, oh man, back in the day, growing up, when I stayed with my grandpa, he didn't have running water. There was no water in the house except for the water that we brought in with a bucket. And when we had to use the bathroom, we had to walk out back into where the outhouse was. So if you had to go at nighttime, good chances you had to be safe. And my grandpa was a coal miner. So he had all that equipment, and I can't remember the helmet, yellow helmet, and what he used to start it with or whatnot. But I remember he had one for me because my head was smaller, evidently. And we use that to go out and use the bathroom. Every once in a while, we'd use a lantern, but the majority of the time, there was no battery-operated flashlight because batteries were expensive, and where he lived, you had to go like 40 miles to buy batteries. So yeah, and if headlamps were a thing, which they kind of were, it's more sensible. And think about, carrying things upstairs or going into the basement or whatever the case may be. If your hands are full carrying stuff, you don't have no way of lighting things up. So, a headlamp is perfect. I have multiple headlamps. I've got backups of a headlamp. That way, because they're just so useful. Like I said, going up and downstairs, being able to see where you're going and not carrying a flashlight around. A lot of elderly people going up and downstairs need to hold on to rails. If the lights are out and you have to try to carry a flashlight and hold on to the rails, can be dangerous. The next one is lanterns. Lanterns, they come in different forms and everything. Forgot to turn my phone off. Let's start getting messages. Okay. Yeah, they come in all kinds of sources. You can hang them, you can set them on the table or whatever. A lot of them are long run time, or they have different brightnesses, and there are some that, you know, flash fancy different settings and whatnot. And myself, I have a lot of solar lanterns, which would mean like at nighttime you use them, daytime you set them outside and let them get some of the sun so they recharge. Also, you can stick them in the window. And I've said this before, I've got the solar lights that, you know, you pop in your yard and make pathways and all that stuff. I got them in all the windows. So when the power goes out and I'm not around something, I can go over there, pull a little sticker out, boom, I have light, and I can get around the house and stuff. They're so much easier, and you know, at dollar stores you can get them real cheap, and they're, you know, even if you have them for outside around, like where you decided you're going to cook at or something like that, before you get the fire going, you have a pathway going to where you're going to cook. I use them in the garden. I don't know if it helps to keep critters out or not, but I have them, and it looks nice. Now, this next thing is, in a pinch, crayons. You never thought about crayons being a light source. But yeah, they act like just like a wick, and you can light them. I mean, they're not going to last very long. But point being, in a pinch, you could use them. Now you may ask, what kind of crayons do you use? Well, standard wax candles, often are paraffin based, work the best. Avoid the washable ones, the no wax kind. Those won't do any good. Choose a safe base, you know, a surface where to put this in. I suggest, you know, what I've done in the past is use shot glasses. It works. You get 6 to 8 of them in there, and then you pop one up to toward the top and use that. Once it burns down, it'll light the rest. And always, like I said, even if you have kids, pets, or anything like that, put everything on a cookie sheet. That way, if it gets knocked over, you don't have wax all over the place. Plus, you know, it can save your house from catching fire. What else we have? In candles, you know, you can't forget about candles. When my power did go out and temperature was below zero, we still stayed pretty warm in one room. You know, you heat up one room. I didn't go out and get the kerosene heater or anything like that, or I've got a propane heater also. I didn't get that going, I did candles. I got Dollar Tree candles, and it's the old religious ones, that they sell, the tall glass ones, skinny, and you put 3 or 4 of them together and put a clay pot on them. You flip it upside down, and that will put out so much heat. Also, you can actually warm up soup or anything else on top of that. Again, make sure you put it on cookie sheet. Make sure you're very safe and everything like that. But, candles can heat and light areas. And you can put 1 candle in every area. I usually put it on the around the coffee tables, and things that I would bump with my feet. My poor pinky toes always get hurt during these times. In the bedroom where you have the footboard, I guess you'd call it. You want to be able to see that. So, think ahead of time. Put in doorways so that you can see where the doorway is and stuff like that. It's, it's common sense type thing. Also, glow sticks. The thing that you shake up and break, and that's a good way of what we used to do. I probably have a few of them around still, but while the kids were here, when the power went off, back then, if the power went off, it usually was off for a week or something like that, depending how bad it was. But at nighttime, we would use glow sticks, and they have a hole in it for a reason, and we'd hook it up to a lanyard so that you could see everybody, and it would glow, and you could see their face, and you could see where they're at in the dark and whatnot. It's a lot easier trying to find somebody, or not bump into them and stuff like that. So everybody should have some glow sticks in an emergency kit somewhere, just to make things a little bit easier. In a pinch, snap, shake, boom, you have light. You have the propane and kerosene fuel lamps. Everybody's seen them. They're unlike the battery ones. When the battery dies, you just add more fuel. As long as you have the fuel. Same thing with the propane ones, the small tanks, and you have the butane ones. You've seen them before. And some of those lamps do have a spot on it to where you could heat up coffee and stuff like that. So when looking for that kind of stuff, think of multiple purposes. It's not that you're going to, create a full-fledged meal with or anything like that, but in a pinch, if you have electric stove, it can work, And in my situation, our area, we had a water main break. So not only did we have no power, we had no water. So I already have water. People should know that by now if they watch my channel long enough. But it was, if I had to go out and get water, I would need a way to heat it. And thinking ahead of time for these types of lamps, it makes sense to get something like that. Let's see. And again, the kerosene lanterns. There are some people that can't stand the smell of these things. Eventually you get used to it. If I was to light one up and it hasn't been lit for a long time, it does, have a nasty smell to it. But in an emergency situation, it would be something worth having around just in case, because the fuel does last a little bit longer than the other fuels. And again, it all depends. We also have oil lamps. They're pretty much safer than candles somewhat, because they have a base and a cover and stuff like that. And you don't see them as much anymore as you used to. And if you watch some YouTube channels, you can see how to make lighting out of used mortar oil. I wouldn't just join this or anything unless that you had no other choice. But it does do what it's supposed to. It lights up the area. Yeah, and I think this is probably our last one on the list here. Yeah, and anyways, I just thought there's some different ideas on different lightings, than your standard flashlight. Yes, I have a flashlight sitting next to my computer. And there's just a normal flashlight. There's multiple different. There's rechargeable. There's the shake up ones that were popular. All kinds of different ones, but always remember to have a backup of your backup. And if that doesn't work, have a backup of that backup, just in case. Until next time, like always, God bless.